He had a disease. He didn't grow. And so, Kimmy, I'm trying to think where, no, that was before we left. I'm sorry, Miss Kimberly, Kimmy. So, old dog can't learn new tricks. She used to be Kimmy. So, so anyhow, David and I met every day. We met every week for a couple hours. That's what I'm talking about tonight, is our weekly meeting, okay? That's what I talk about. But during this time, we met every day after school when he got home from school because of the chaos he was going through. Plus, we had a family meeting every day. We'll talk about that a little more tomorrow night. Plus, we had all the regular stuff that we did informally. But he was going through chaos, and so he and I were meeting every day because every day his heart got battered. Every day he was going through chaos. And so I actually helped him, came out of combination of my personality, combination of what I'd studied about Jesus, what I'd learned. I mean, I know there are lots of things. I was a pastor. I get all that. But in essence, what I did in principle, you too can do. All right? Say, I can do this. You don't have to, but we can do it, all right? So I'm kind of hoping I'll remember David's story as I go through this, just to say, now, that's what I'm talking about here. So here we go. Heart surgeons. Here's what we have to do to disciple our children to be led by the Spirit instead of being governed by the flesh. It assumes our children have repented and have entered the kingdom of God and understand, even though immaturely, they understand that Jesus is their God. Okay, at varying levels. I mean, I understand that comes at different levels as we go along. Okay, so here's David. He's in middle school. So, but it didn't start at age 3. At age 3, I started. Just when we moved to Moscow. You all know Moscow around here. We moved to Moscow. We had triplets. We left New Jersey, came to Moscow. In the drive there, Debbie and I decided it was time that I would start taking each of the children out every week. And then later when Dan came, for what we called a date. It was a bad word. I could have come up with some more creative. But it was a meeting together. And so I did that. David had Tuesday, Dana had Wednesday, Deborah had Thursday, and Daniel had Friday. And every day I had on my calendar, I had time blocked out personally. They weren't part of a group, they were personally. So, and what we did on that date was, I'm going to describe, and that's what I'm calling parents being heart surgeons, and you can do this. Now, I'll just give you one little bit of warning. If you start when they're 3, it'll only cost you an ice cream cone. If you wait till they're 10, it'll be a new dress. 15, a BMW. No, I don't know what it is, but you get the idea. I mean, so the sooner the better. Is it ever too late? No, I could give you stories of people, pastors, leaders, who started discipling their kids when the kids were 30, and the kids were halfway rebellious or absolutely indifferent to the Lord. And through what we're going to talk about tonight and tomorrow night, actually led them back to Jesus. So don't be discouraged, no matter the age of your kids, etc. So here we are. Number 1, point 1, establish consistent times together. That's all I'm going to say about it. Get it on the calendar. Do your kids ever need their teeth worked on? Yeah, what do? You call the dentist, you make an appointment, it's on the calendar, you go to it. Well, what's more important, your kid's heart or your kid's teeth? Say heart, come on, okay. Well, it is, because that's what God sees and that's what determines everything they do. Does that make sense? Guard their heart. They don't know how to guard their heart. So we're going to talk about how do we help them guard their heart. So I had every Tuesday, I went out with David every Tuesday. Not far from where Kim grew up, it was where David and I went for a Coke every Tuesday. Or somewhere else if I got really creative. There weren't many places to go in Moscow. So establish consistent times together. Got the idea? It's not too hard. Say, I could do that. See, it's not too, and it's true with lost people, and it's just not that formal. It's true with people in the church if we're willing to take time to do it. It used to be called pastoral care. Pastors quit giving pastoral care quite a while ago. No, we redefined, forgive me, I'm in trouble now, but I'm old, they can't fire me. We redefined pastoral care. What it means now is you preach, and maybe you go to the hospital, maybe not. You at least do funerals and sermons, funerals and weddings most of the time. But other than that, people take care. We used to, pastors understood that they were responsible for the maturing of the people in their church. Do you understand that? Now we trust it to the preaching. And maybe the small group where we've delegated to lay people, well, that's what I'm trying to get us to do. But we haven't done enough training and equipping to make it be effective the way it needs to be. Okay, that was all unnecessary probably. You got the idea, okay? We can make a date. Any parents of young kids here? Okay? Are you listening? What do you think? You could make it, you could put it on the calendar, and if you make it kind of fun, they'll like it. I recommend it, make it a lot of fun. But you're setting the stage, all right? So, number one, establish consistent times. Number two, establish intentional conversations. You're going to think, this is really Mickey Mouse. I came all the way to hear this. Well, actually, yes, it's really important. Establish intentional conversations, which means you have a purpose in the conversing. You are trying to accomplish something when you converse. And I just threw up a bunch of words there, but here's the conversation. What you want to do down the road, you want to be able to ask your children questions not only about their life, what happened, their story. You want to be able to ask them questions about their reaction to their story. And their reaction is the important thing. It's not what happens to us, it's how we react to it. Everybody knows that, right? But the reaction is always first an inner issue that affects or determines the external issue. And so I'm talking fast. Is this all right? Keeping up with me? Sorry. It's an occupational hazard. So what you want to do is you want to get them to talk to you, because your primary tool, I almost said weapon, it's not a weapon, a tool is to ask questions. I got this idea from Jesus. As I studied how Jesus lived, I watched how many times he asked questions. I wrote it down. And I got and then I've learned more about it since I wrote that down. So what we're doing is we go out, and while we're on our easy little date with our kids, maybe we're getting a Coke, maybe we're buying shoes, maybe we're just going for a ride, we're being together every week. You decide how important it is. I wouldn't want to even try to be. How valuable is 1 hour a week with your children where they are the focus of attention? And it's not just watching them play ball. It's not just going for a ride with 5 others. No, it's you and them, and they're what we're talking about. We're not talking about me or what I think. We're talking about them. See, is 1 hour a week enough? Well, it's better than nothing by a long shot, you know. So you got the idea. So what you want to do early on, you want to start just making small talk. I'm not good at small talk because I don't like to practice it, but small. Oh, okay. You're laughing with me, not at me. Okay, good. I can't, never mind. But with our kids, we need to talk about, when you're with lost people, you can't talk about Jesus. You need to talk about things that they're interested in. When we're with kids, we need to talk about stuff they're interested in. So we're driving down the road. I got one of my kids in the car. We're driving down, and here comes a car, and it's red. And I said, whoa, I love that car. I love that color. What color car do you like? I don't know. Okay, that's fine. Doesn't matter. Very unimportant question, but a very important question. Why? Because you're asking them a question about what they think or what they want and you're just kind of getting them used to the idea that when I'm with Dad, in this case, when I'm with Dad, they don't think about it. They just grow up with it. My dad asks me questions and I answer. That's all we're trying to do. And this isn't rocket science. Just getting them used. So we talk, and I might say a little bit because sometimes it's quiet, and sometimes you can't get a word in edgewise. Blah, blah, blah. It'll get worse before they quit talking to you altogether. Okay? They'll quit talking to you when they find out that you're not interested in what they're talking about or too busy. So they'll shut you out, and they'll talk to others. Okay? Most little kids are chatterboxes with their parents until they get the message. I'm bugging Dad. Everybody clear? So it's important that you got a time where they know that they've got you undivided. I say the kids are the curriculum. We're studying them. And how do we study? We ask them questions. So first it's about a red car, but it's going to get deeper in a hurry. We're getting them used to just having dialogue, talking. answering questions. It's just, they don't think about it. They don't realize what's going on. Now, with my grandchildren, it's very hard for me to do it because all of my kids have had a wonderful time saying, well, my dad would, he'd ask questions, and then what do you think? I think you'll hear it as I go along. So they've talked about it, so my grandkids are alert. Anytime I ask them a question, they say, why are you asking me a question, Poppy? I say, no milkshake for you. How's that? No, okay. So, establish intentional conversations. Everybody got it? This isn't rocket science, all right? Next. Sorry, I went too fast. What's going on here? It's jumping ahead. Oh, it's being naughty. One at a time. Okay. Learn to ask heart-opening questions. Now, this is getting to be the key. If you're going to do surgery, you're going to have to open up that which is diseased. Everybody got it? Heart-opening questions. Here is a non-heart-opening question. Here's a non-heart-opening question. How many people are there on that field? That's just an external fact. That's a fact. Heart opening are one of these three, and there are more. These are the great big general ones. What do you think? What are you thinking? I reckon don't ask it that way. I mean, we say that to it. What are you thinking? Which basically means you're dumb. But we need to figure out. We want to find out what they're thinking. What are you feeling? We want to find out what they're feeling. What do you desire? See, here's the point. They're going through life. Jesus got to be with Peter, James, and John all day long. He got to watch them. You don't get to watch them. You either have to go to work or they go to school. You don't get to be with them unless we have the wonderful case where the mothers actually live with the kids, but that's still up until the kindergarten. Then we ship them off. And most of their day is with others, and we don't get to see it. So the only way you get to know them really is by asking them questions about their life and listen to their story. But that takes time. See? Takes time. So, critically important that we not only ask questions about life, which isn't so hard to ask. What grade did you get? That might be a little bit dangerous because there are implications, but what happened today? That's not a heart-opening question yet. It's external, what happened? Or you know some things and just asking those kinds of questions. But before it's over, you want to ask heart-opening questions, i.e., how did they respond to what happened to them? Or how are they responding? So our son David, let me just pick on the really hard time in his life. He's getting beat every day. He's getting his hair pulled every day at school. It's become a thing. There's a group of kids that are just picking on him all the time. So the overt question was, so can you tell me what happened today? No. Now, I'm into middle school now, way past the early years. But he's going through terrible stuff. It's okay, you can tell me what happened today. Guess what? If I hadn't had a lot of years behind me where we had those kind of conversations, I couldn't have had that conversation there. Typically, not always, but they really helped. But I didn't ask a heart-opening question until after I had found out what happened to him. And then I wanted to know how he responded, because his response demonstrates whether he is listening to Jesus and being governed by the Spirit and the truth, if he's believing what he's hearing, if he's being governed by the Spirit, or if he's reacting in the flesh. Now, a middle school kid getting his throat stepped on and getting his hair pulled is probably going to react by the flesh. Would you agree? In fact, most Christians, they come to church, and if you don't say the right thing, they're miffed, hurt, and they start reacting out of the flesh. You all know what I'm talking about. Because we haven't learned, we haven't been discipled to be led by the Spirit. We react. So, heart-opening questions. So, how did that feel? What did you feel when they did that? Most of the time, we can articulate our emotions. Some can't. Some are better at articulating conceptually. Most can remember their emotions even when they can't remember their thoughts. But almost all of our emotions are the byproduct of our thoughts. Some of our emotions are the byproduct of we got what we wanted, so we're happy, or we didn't get what we wanted, or we got what we didn't want, so we're unhappy. But most of our emotions, those are really obvious. Most of our emotions are there because someone said something, something happened, and I began thinking. I had some thoughts about that person, about the situation, about myself. I had thoughts, and that affected my emotions. I got discouraged, I got angry, I got afraid. And most people remember their emotions better than they remember the thoughts that caused their emotions. Okay? So that's really good to tuck in your billfold. It's really good to remember that. But heart-opening questions. What you're doing is you need to really there's not to be so much love and so much caring going on that they're willing, when you say to them, what did you think when that happened? That they're willing to think about it and open their heart to you. And it won't happen without you having quality relationship with them first, by and large, where they know that you love them and they trust you. Does that make sense? Is this too hard? Well, if you're not aware of it and make a lot of errors, you'll damage the relationship. So then you need to repent and go back and say, you didn't know what you were doing. You didn't mean to do it. And beg them to reconsider strengthening relationship with you. Put it in your own words that's better than that one. But build the relationship. Because they're not going to open their heart to you probably unless they feel like, unless your grace melts their heart. Your love. Doesn't matter what you do or don't do, you can't stop. I'm for you. It's not your problem, it's our problem. And they feel that because they've seen it and they heard it and they believe it. That's the what do you call it? What does the surgeon give you before he cuts you open to make it not hurt? Anesthetic. See, it's grace, it's love. It's called grace and truth. See? Okay? So, heart-opening questions happen usually after they've told you a story, and if they tell you that they got an A in school, you say, oh, I think I have this on here next. Yeah. If they tell you they got an A in school, are you glad to know that? Oh, yeah. So what do? Woo, you celebrate, you rejoice, and they're happy they got an A, and they're happy that you're happy, and the one that loves them, it's easy, and you can say, if it'd be probably pretty good, well, how did you get an A? And they'll be happy to tell you how much they studied, and you get to celebrate not only the result, but the cause of the effect, and that'll be a good thing. But most of the time where you have to deal with heart-opening questions is when it's hard, because the story they told wasn't good. So I'm talking about loving your children concretely, taking them out, having dialogue with them so that they tell you their story as if they let you be with them in their life. They tell you their story. See? And then, if their story is good, you celebrate. If it wasn't good, the first thing is, if they're hurting or if they failed, the first thing is your words are, I don't know if you know how much I love you. They tell you they cheated. Okay, I don't know if you know, or maybe I'm for you. It's not your problem, it's our problem. I'm your dad. The words are grace. We pour grace into open, wounded, broken, failed hearts. Because Jesus does that, right? Sorry, I'm not meaning to leave you guys out. I just chase everyone down, sorry. Okay? This deserves time. Without my illustrating this, do you get our daughter Deborah I've heard her tell it several times when she's talking to, I don't know, Kimmy, you may have heard Deborah tell this story. She told the prayer conference. Kimmy, there we go again. Yes, sir.
I spent quite a bit of time as a school administrator.
Yes, sir.
And I find what you say about happened to your son very disturbing. And I'm sure you probably talked to the school administrators, but it would have been my responsibility to see that that did not happen.
Thank you. I would love to explore that a little bit. I'm under a time gun here. Thank you. Let me just say this. The end of the story with our son, after our conversations, was, and I'm going to skip ahead here, but I'll respond to it. I would say, what happened? He would tell me. I would say, okay, that happened. I'm sorry. I hurt with you. So, I'll tell you what, could you remind me to tell this story at the end? Someone, who can remember? I want to tell this story at the end, but it'd be better if I went through these other things first. It'll make an illustration to point out the whole scenario. So remind me to tell the story at the end. It's a response to your good thought. Thank you. So, pour celebration of grace in an open heart. That's huge. Doesn't matter what they tell you happened to them or how they responded to it. We're called to throw open our arms and let them know that I'm your dad and I'm for you. If you got a problem, I've got it. I said, you got a problem, I got a problem. Because you're my son, you're my daughter. Huge, huge. Many parents, when their children tell them what someone else did, they'll get on the warpath, and that's what we'll try. Or they find things that are wrong in their kids, they teach them, they start telling them what's wrong, what they should do. That'll be the last time your kids will tell you what's going on in their heart. When you pour in the healing truth before they've felt your grace and love, they'll shut you off. Okay, if you start giving them what to do and how to think and what they should do next time, if you start teaching and coaching them, more than likely, it depending upon obviously, I'm talking in generalities here, but in general, parents talk way too much and don't listen. This is all about asking questions. We go out on a date, I ask you questions about the cars. Then I ask you questions about your life, what happened to your life. Then I ask you questions about your response. So far, that's where I'm at. And then when I hear something very painful for you, that's about the first time I get to tell what's in me, and that is, I love you. I'm for you. It's just such a horrific habit to try to fix it. Well, the fix is grace to start with. Okay? I've probably beat it to death. Let me push on just for time's sake. Then, are you okay with? Are you tracking with me here? I'm putting into a sequence. It's not as robotically sequential as it's relational. It's dynamic. But these are the principles that need to be in place, and they are fairly sequential. There's somewhat that this is kind of in order. So learn to sensitively ask the child. This is so big. Learn to ask the child to think and evaluate his own heart. So the child tells you, the kid hit me, I got an F. He tells you the problem, he tells you the good, whatever he tells you, you say, so what did you think about that? Okay, here comes the heart opening question. That happened to you, here comes the heart opening question. What do you think about that? How did that make you feel? What did you want to do? Heart opening, getting to know not just what happened to them in life and how they physically